based right on what I said. We'll get started here. So, um, and I would like to see kind of some responses from you guys. There will be some questions that I have for you that I'd like you to be kind of honest about. And just, all of this is really meant to kind of better understand ourselves and better understand kind of how we deal with our emotions from throughout the trading day. Okay, so we should be up and running here. Just going to be doing a special presentation here. It's just going to be an extra video for those of you that follow the market wrap, and just a little treat here for the people at the Strategic Day Trader open house. Okay, so we'll be talking about prospect theory, okay, and how it applies to us as traders. Okay, so first, I just want you to kind of put yourself in this position right through this scenario A. For some of you, maybe you need to add a 0 or 2 to kind of feel anything about these numbers. But we're going to work with this trader here who has about a $200 risk unit, risks about $200 per trade. Okay, so their first trade works really well. They make about 2.5 Rs. They're up 500. Okay, they've closed out of that. They're thinking it's going to be a really nice day. They take 2 more trades, 2 more that set up. One of them almost immediately fails. Okay, they lost 200 on that. They're feeling a little bit nervous now, and the third trade is not really working. It's kind of just stuck, so they kill it break even. They say, okay, you know what? I'm up on the morning. I'm going to take it easy. I'll scan, whatever. I'll come back in the afternoon, right? And I'm going to get myself back up maybe to where I was before earlier in the morning, okay? They come back from lunch, they take a play. Unfortunately, that play does not work. They lose another 200 and they finish the day up 100. Okay, now I won't be able to see the comments from Facebook and YouTube, but for those of you in the room who've had days like this, right? Well, how do you kind of feel when you finish the day? What's kind of the emotion? How do you feel about the day? How do you feel about going into the day tomorrow? All right. A little bit beaten down, right? That's how I feel. That you thought that it was going to be a lot nicer day. Yeah, you start to regret those other trades that you took. Now, that's not even saying this trade that was killed break even. Maybe that trade actually would have worked really well. And during that time, you just got a little bit nervous. You didn't want to take 2 losses in a row, right? Not even in considering the fact that that might have been a really good trade. And you finish this way, right? That's one way to look at it, right? That you're up 100, better than being down, okay? So you feel, right, a little bit less sure about going into tomorrow, which is, right, kind of odd because as Dave is mentioning here, you actually finished the day up, okay? But you still feel kind of negative about it. Okay, let's talk about scenario B, okay? Maybe on the same day. Different trader. All right, also $200 risk. Their first trade right at the open doesn't work. They take 2 more trades. Another one fails, and then the other one kind of starts to work, but then comes right back down. It's starting to go negative. They decide, I'll kill it break even. Okay, I don't want to run and dig myself a big hole right in the morning. Okay, so I'm already down 400. You take it easy, you scan again, you come back, you take a 4th trade at lunch, and it recovers your day, right? And when it's up 400 on that trade, you take it. All right, so you close the day break even. Okay, so you were down all morning, and then your first trade in the afternoon recovers you back, right, all the way back to break even. How do you feel going back into tomorrow? You need to look back at why trades fails. Yes, we'll talk about that in a little bit. Okay, how do you feel after this kind of day? Relieved, a little bit more positive, right? Probably tired, yeah. But that's what we want to kind of get into. What is it that we went through? Why is it that we feel tired? Okay, a little bit disappointed that it wasn't a really nice day, that it was just a break-even day. Okay. I'll tell you how I feel after a day like this. I feel like if I can avoid the kind of early morning mistakes, or if they weren't good trades, or maybe some of the volatility in the open, I'm going to do better tomorrow. That's how I feel, because I'm kind of on the upswing, right? I just had a really nice trade. I was down all day, and I'm telling myself this is why we trade, where we have grit and resolve, and I can read the pattern better in the afternoon because I have more information than I did at the open based on the gap. You tell yourself all these things because you just did this and you recovered. Okay. And so, even if the trade would have kept going, a lot of times it's just too tempting to take it because when you recover the day after being down for most of the day. Okay. So what we want to kind of talk about is why in scenario A, you can be up a little bit, but feel a little bit defeated, and why in scenario B, you feel relieved, right? And it's just a break-even day. Okay. So that we can explain with prospect theory. Okay. Yeah, relief, right? Like you feel like ZoomDoc, yeah, exactly, that you traded better, that you kind of got better you made some adjustments, you did the right thing. You feel more confident in your trading ability going into tomorrow. Unlike the other scenario where you're not sure if you're going to be able to really do as well the next day, right, as in scenario A, okay? So this is prospect theory, okay? There are three principles here. Okay, but let's just look at this graph here. On the x-axis, the dollar amount. On the y-axis, psychological value. So when you're down, this would be pain. And when you're up, right, you're experiencing happiness or reward, right? Okay, so there are three principles that basically define this curve, okay? Has two distinct parts to the right and left of a neutral point. This neutral point, we could say, is break even, okay? To the right, we're making money and we feel happy. To the left, we're losing money and we feel pain. The curve is S-shaped, which represents diminishing sensitivity for both gains and losses. Okay, so when that play first goes up 200, right, that actually feels a lot better or gives us more happiness per dollar than when we're up 1,000 and we go to 1,200. Okay, and unfortunately, it's kind of the same thing, which is why some people end up digging really big holes. Is that when you're down 1,000 and you lose another 200, it doesn't feel as bad as initially when that play first started to fail and you were first approaching your first loss. Okay, it's that kind of numbness that can cause some people to start to dig holes because they think, well, I'm already down so much. What's the point in, losing another? At least maybe it'll work and I can get some back, right? It's that kind of also becoming numb to the losses. Okay, and then the two curves are not symmetrical. So that means for each dollar gained, you don't actually get as much happiness for each dollar lost. That we have an aversion to losing, that we experience more pain for an equal loss to the amount, if it were an equivalent gain, how much happiness that would give us. Okay, so these are the three principles of the curve. Okay, and if you have a normal psychology or, which I like to think that I do, then it should look something like this. Okay, all right. So let's go back to those two scenarios that we looked at. All right, so this trader, right, was up 500, was here. Next play, dropped them back down. All right, so now they're here. Okay, and then they were moving in this direction. That's why they're starting to think, well, I don't want to keep going down. I don't want to keep losing happiness, right? Starting to experience pain. So they killed that play. They came back. That play didn't work. They ended here. So what was the trajectory of this person's trading day? They went up, and then for the rest of the day, they were experiencing more and more pain or losing more happiness, right? So that's why at the end of the day, you've been moving in this direction. You don't really care that you finished here, right? So then in scenario B, what happened? You started off down, right? And then you worked your way up and you finished here. So it's not so much here, right, that maybe has an emotional impact. It's where you came from. You moved up from here, so you're actually, right, kind of gaining happiness or reducing pain. So that's why, even though this trader finishes here, this other trader finishes here, this trader a lot of times is happier because they have been moving in this direction, right? That's been their trajectory most recently. Okay? Now, we kind of understand all of this. We can look at this chart, right? But the important thing is what lessons can we take away to help us improve our trading and improve our decision making? Okay? And so lesson number one, okay, is that since the slope is steepest at where the axes intersect, we are most likely to make a P&L influence decision when we're at or near break even. Whether that's break even on the day, break even on the week, break even on the trade, whatever it is, right? It's when we're around that area, when we're seeing it go, oh, the play is working. Uh-oh, the play just dropped. Oh, the play is back up. You know what? Maybe if I can just get away with a little bit on this, I'll be happy. Same thing if that's how your day is going, right? If you're cumulative P&L, right? So we need to be aware that this is when we're most likely to make a mistake or deviation from our management. Okay? That's also why it's really hard to manage correctly when you're working your way back up, right? If we're talking about this trader in scenario B, and they were down all day and they finally get back up to here, and then they actually see their day go green. They go up 100, but then the play kind of starts to pull in a little bit and rest and goes back to break even or a little bit negative. That is very, very hard to say, yes, I'm still going to let this trade play out. What would most traders do, right? Or what would the average trader do? They would say, you know what, I don't want to let this go negative. I don't want to let the day go negative. Let me just, if it goes back up green, I'll just take it. Am I right? Is that how you guys would be thinking too? You've been down all day. You finally have one trade brings you all the way back. How willing are you to let that actually come back in and take out wherever your trail or your stop is supposed to be if it leaves you negative? Right? So it's because we're in this area. It's in this area you're most likely to deviate from your management and say, you know what, I'm fine with just a little bit up or a little bit down. And that's our attachment to break even, right? For some reason, when you were working your way back up and you were down 400, right? Those first $100, maybe you say, okay, yeah, I got some of it back. That's good. And then those last $100, when you're only down 100 and goes all the way to break even, right? Feels much better, right? That $100 gave you a lot more psychological value than the first $400 that you got back, right? All right. Lesson number 2, okay, is because a flattening curve represents reduced attachment to each dollar gained or lost, right? We, as professional speculators, should strive to have as flat a curve as soon as possible. Okay? So if we were to look at this, what would let's just say, what would a black box curve look like? You guys tell me. What if there was the black box and we were going to chart its emotions, what would its prospect theory curve look like? What do you think? A dot in the center, a diagonal, no curve, and flat. So I would say, yeah, no curve and flat are the right answers. Because is the black box getting any kind of happiness from being up 200? Is it getting any kind of pain from being down 200? No. It is just flat. You can move to the right, you can move to the left. It feels nothing. Just flat. Right? So that is what, I mean, think about too, when you first started trading maybe, right? And you had your first winner, what did your curve look like? When you made your first $200, $300, probably this thing kind of spiked up off the charts, right? Yeah, vertical, straight up vertical. And then the first time you had a down day, right? Maybe the first time you lost 2 trades in a row, you felt really bad, down in the dumps, right? Really, really bad. And so as professional speculators, what we have to do is we'll probably never get it to be completely flat, okay? But to understand that we need to be somewhat objective and kind of maintain, right, an equal kind of attachment to dollar, not be so influenced by the highs and lows, right, of every trade in every single day, okay? We'll probably never get it to be exactly flat, all right? But, right, that's what we should strive for. And this, I think, if you've heard the term trading in the zone, I think it was kind of made popular by Mark Douglas. For me, trading in the zone is not necessarily that you're seeing everything correctly, that you know what every market maker is doing, you've got it all figured out, you're seeing the underlying truth of the universe, right? For me, it's not that. It's that you're trading at a point where your attachment to the dollar has gotten really close to flat. So a lot of times people kind of put these things together because after you've had a couple really nice trades, you're up on the day. That third trade, right, you're kind of just going to trade it according to your management, no problem, because you already know that the day is set or whatever. And so your attachment to that dollar, right, has become as it should be or close to flat, right? You're not kind of counting pennies anymore, right? You already know the day is up. You're letting it run. You're managing. You put your stop in the system. You're trailing it, whatever. You're doing it as you should because that trade is no longer going to make or break your day, right? So you don't have a strong attachment, right? So a lot of times we kind of associate that, oh, we're in the zone because we're having a really nice day. And so for me, being in the zone is not about necessarily how much I'm up, how many plays I've gotten right. It's the fact that I'm now at a point where I can take trades unencumbered by attachment to whatever the trade ends up doing. If I think it's a good trade, I'm going to let it play out and not feel like, a live or die situation, right? Okay. All right. And then let's do another example here. I did reference loss aversion earlier, okay? But I just want to do another example here, all right? And I want you to be honest. Okay, some of you may know what maybe, just give me your answer, okay? And let's just say you walk into your grocery store and they say, congratulations, you're our 500th customer, where you're going to get this $500 gift card to shop with, but you have to choose option A or option B. Option A, you get to keep 200, or option B, there's a 50-50 chance we flip a coin. Heads, you get to keep you get to keep all 500. Tails, you lose 500. Okay, so 50-50 chance to keep it or lose it all. Option A guarantees you get to keep 200. So what would you guys pick? You tell me. Option A or option B? Leave the store. Okay. Okay, Isaac says option B. Monica says option A. All right. Yeah, you can leave the store. Sure, that's fine. Ryan says option A. Okay. Why does it depend? If you said it depends. Okay, let's say I don't know what it maybe depends on, but let's say. Sammy, don't ruin the whole thing. Jeez. Dennis says option A. Pedro says option B. Option A. Reed says, okay, go for broke. Option B then. Okay. Jito says A, but I always choose option B. Option A. Okay. Good. So a little bit of everything. I think honestly, for me, if I were really put on the spot, I would pick option A. And I think the 61% is how many people would have picked option A when they did this experiment. Okay? And it's because the thought of walking away with nothing is too painful. For those of you that picked option A, isn't that what was in your head? You thought, oh, with my kind of luck, it's going to land on tails and I'm going to lose. I'm going to just end up with nothing. Right? So what does that mean? Right? That means we are averse to loss. Right? So if we look at what is the actual value of these options, we know that option A is 200 and option B is actually a value of 250 because you have a 50-50 chance of 500 or 0. Okay, so for those of you that picked option B, you probably did this calculation and said, you know what? Either, right, I really am going to buy a lot of groceries, so I want all 500, or you actually did the calculations and you said, 50% times 500 gives me 250. But majority of people will pick option A. So what's even kind of funnier about this is that this same experiment was redone. Yeah, 100% times 200 is still 200, but 50% times 500 is 250. Yes, that's why people pick A, because the chance, the possibility of losing makes us not want to take it. So the funny thing is that when they redid this experiment and they said that so 61% picked option A, and then they changed the word. They changed it so that option A said lose 300, which, right, is the same thing. But they just said option A is lose 300. The percentage of people that picked option A dropped to 43%. Now, all of a sudden, because it was framed as lose 300, everyone's like, well, I don't want to lose most of it. Okay, let's give it a try. Let's gamble for it, because I don't want to lose most of it. So that number of people picking option A dropped from 61% to 43%, even though it was exactly the same. It's just the wording was different. That tells you how much, right, aversion we have to the concept of loss. Okay? Yes, that's correct. That's correct, Dan. All right, so now the final lesson here, lesson number 3. All right, the curve is steeper to the left of the neutral point. Okay? That's because of our aversion to loss. Each dollar lost causes us more pain than each dollar gained. Okay, so now what did we talk about earlier after scenario A and scenario B? You need to go back and review the day, right? And this is why this is important, is because what happens on those days, right? Let's say, you have a down day, you finish here, and you pass on a trade, and that trade would have brought you to here. How significant does that trade become? For me, super, super significant. I become fixated on it. I study it way more than I study any other kind of past trade on a winning day, right? Now, all of a sudden, right, any trade that you passed on, on a down day, you review it like it's, going to be the answers to tomorrow's test. But when you have a good day and you pass on a play, how much do you review it? You probably just don't even care. Probably don't even remember. You're up here, the trade that you passed on that would have worked really well, you probably don't even remember it, because it doesn't really provide you that much kind of addition as far as where you see yourself as where you should have been, right? When you finish the day down here and you pass on a trade that would have put you up here, you see yourself as, I could have been here, but I'm here, right? I should be here and I'm down here. That's very painful. If you have a nice day and then there's whatever, maybe you pass 2-3 trades that would have made it even better, doesn't bother you as much. And that shouldn't be the case, right? We should be reviewing each trade, right, equally and giving them the same kind of amount of consideration, right? So don't beat yourself up on the trade that you passed in on your down day, and also don't skip out on your homework, right, when you had a nice day. Because those are the kind of times when you're going to set yourself up. You have a really nice day, you get complacent, and then the next day you have one of your worst days, right? Probably we've all been there. Maybe we thought we all had it figured out for whatever reason, right? We didn't go over the full picture of what went on in the market. Next day we come in with a big head, right? Okay, so don't beat yourself up on the days where you're down. Review the trade. Don't fixate on it. Move on. Take what you can, learn from it, and then move on. Same thing on your really nice days, right? We get comfortable gains. Don't get complacent. Okay? All right. So just want to go over a summary here of the 3 lessons. All right? Reminder, break-even point is where you're going to have the hardest time sticking with your management. It's the reason that so many people trail to break even prematurely and miss out on nice wins, okay? Because you're fixated on that P&L that keeps flipping back and forth across red and green, okay? That's when you're most vulnerable, all right? Lesson number 2, we should strive to reach a prospect theory curve as close to zero as we can, but acknowledge where the dangerous points are. Okay, if you're down a lot, okay, and you start to reach a slope of zero, that's not a good thing, because you may start to dig a really big hole. Okay, so we do want to generally get there as quick as we can. You know, 1 trade, 2 trades that work, maybe you're there. All right, and that's when we want to reduce our attachment to each additional dollar, okay, gained or lost. Okay, and then missing or passing on trades should be of equal consequence, should be given equal kind of review, whether or not it was a really good day or a down day. Okay, so we want to make sure that we kind of treat them evenly, we stay even, we do the right amount of work, we don't get too high on our good days, we don't beat ourselves up over missed trades on our down days. All right. Okay, there's a lot more that you can take away from this. Honestly, these were only the lessons that I see in this for myself, that like helped me understand kind of what I experienced throughout the day. You know, those 3 lessons don't necessarily have to be all that you can take away from this, right? So if you want to look more into it, the book that I read was called Thinking Fast and Slow. All right, that's by Kahneman. He's one of the creators, the co-creators of this theory here. All right, and like I said, if you have a normal psychology, then yeah, this probably should be where you're at. If you have something different, or maybe you are at this point have got yourself to be a black box, you know, and you are just Mr. Cool, then, you know, then maybe not as much to take away from you from this for you. Okay. All right. Any questions on that? We can kind of field any questions. I'm going to go ahead and end the broadcast. That's really the end of this lesson. So thanks a lot. Hope you enjoyed it. You know, for the market rep followers, just an extra video for you guys. We will have our normal one at the close, but hope you enjoyed.